世间所有的相遇，都是久别重逢。
清风明月如怀抱。
So yesterday we look at the Spring Festival Gala, right? The microphone?
世间所有的相遇
I think it's okay. So let me
都是久别重逢。
check. I think microphone is okay. Muted. Okay. Yeah, so yesterday we looked at the Spring Festival, the martial art robotics show, right? The major point is robotics, right? And the industrialization behind it, or the industrialization or new industrialization is going to lead us into, right? That is the major focus, right? So we're going to continue to investigate into that direction, right? And to look at the major business purpose is redefine the human, right? Life science ontology, mostly business ontology, and worlds, like nation worlds. The worlds is kind of coupled with the nation, right? Depends on where you are. If you live in a very weak nation, I don't think you have any wealth, right? Because your wealth can be taken or wiped out any moment in time, right? But yeah, some cultures prefer no nation. It's also okay, but still you have to belong to a nation to preserve your wealth, right? So that's where we start, because down to the bottom of it is why you need wealth, because you accumulated the wealth in forms of property, asset, or money, or something, right? You need to pass it down, right? The leftover, right? The accumulated. That's where the families come into play. But it also involves a social part. You need to distribute the wealth more fairly in a way that benefit more, not just yourself. That's the fundamentals of Adam Smith have the wealth of nation, but in the books I read, it's long before that, called About Wealth. Simply put all the principles, but not in the industrialized, not so simple and succinctly. Yeah, that's where it wins, but not the principal stuff, but not written. It's well written, right? Starting from more than 2,000 years ago, there is already laid out those fundamental principles. And even in effect, the invisible hand kind of stuff in what Adam Smith proposes, proven to be quite naive, right? And works in a smaller scale. But, yeah, that's not our major focus. Right? So, on the ontology part, really, like, we need to spend more time, because right now we're serving the large clients, mostly enterprise agentic AI part, right? This is a question being asked hundreds of times, right? Or in thousands of different forms, right? It's kind of overwhelming, but it's triggered me to think through quite deeply, right, and thoroughly. I think most people got it wrong, right? It's hard for me to, but in short term, it's really for the AI and robotics era, right? It's not how Palantir did the sort of ontology. It's a different thing, right? It's like person, you need to have heart and soul. That's what ontology is, right? And what AI and robotics give you is arms and brain, right? You know, that's it. So AI and robotics, you know, put together, you know, you have to serve the human, right? Create a world, and run the business, life science, you name it. You know, to live, to work, to educate yourself, to study. Obviously, to do business, to do banking, for example, right? So a lot of stuff, right? You need new form of industrialization. You need new workforces. That's where the ontologies fall, right? In the line of product, this belongs to MaicroHeart, right? But it's, you know, stemmed from the macro miners. I'm going to explain quite involved in a long-winded way. But if you don't do that, you can really hard to get it, right? It's not that easy to get it right. Okay, and many big companies will pay a lot and create more risk, in fact, approaching that. Okay, that's besides the point. Today we're going to continue to investigate a bit more into what's behind the martial art robotics, right? How do we compare the future, or the war, if you will, currently in kind of between the US and China, right? Especially between representatively, you know, the Boston Robotics, right? You know, Optimus, and Figure, whatever. It's quite only a few, right? In China's side, there are at least 100 sizable companies. One of the representative is Unitree, right? There are many others, right? On the state, as I mentioned, there are 4 big companies, right? So the comparison is kind of pretty stark, right? The US is still leading, you know, technologically, that I believe, right? And you know, however, it's going to hard to maintain that edge, because the approach, in my opinion, is wrong, right? It's not up to the Boston Robotics dynamics. It is really the entrepreneurial, the business or finance, technology. US is still quite advanced. However, it's for-profit part, right? Or for example, just the elites benefit the field. That's going to kill the long-term industrialization. That's the real game, right? Without that, you don't have robotics. Okay, you need data. You need actual cases, business cases, scenario, world problem to solve. Only through that you build up the capacity, right? You advance. Otherwise, what do you do? Maintain them in laboratories. A lesser visible but also pretty important factor is the price, right? Okay, Boston Robotics, right? How many millions, right? 2, like the Unitree, but 16 or less, right? USD per piece, right? And they have a variety of those. And they put thousands on the street, in the factory, in the mines, you know, in restaurant, hospitals, you know, banks, doing restructure, doing all kinds of reindustrialization. That's how you should do it, right? But again, you need, we mentioned about it, the energy, right? The infrastructure. So the supporting, you know, information, the other technology factor like 5G, 6G, right? The collective systematic approach is what's required. It's part of the fabric. It's not independent. You cannot single it out and say you want to win. It's impossible. You could try, but unless you integrate it, be part of the live, you know, live ecosystem of the industrialization, right? You don't have a future. Okay, like you want to produce robotics in a war. You have no war. You're never fighting any war, right? How do you really produce such forces? It's impossible. It's quite simple, right? You can have most advanced technology, but how do you really make sure you maintain that? The technology and engineering, in science, does not come from a vacuum. I never believed that this folks or genius is just in a dream. No, you copied it somewhere, probably, right? You cannot just in a dream you got it. There's no such thing as, from a vacuum or from wherever you downloaded. That's bullshit, right? Yeah, if you talk to kindergarten children, they might be a little bit, like a tale, right? Any case, so that's beyond the point. So let's dive into that. So, see, not in a particular order, right? What is this? So it's a many magnifying glass, right? It's not a tech really a national mandate, right? A live language-based skate requires precise timing and interaction. But it's not just a show, right? There's a lot of engineering, training, rehearsal behind it, right? It's also a show, obviously, right? The choreography, the dance, the martial art is not that easy to. Just look at the flip, and the joint, the agility, dexterity, right? The strings, and the very nuanced handling of the balancing. It's impressive, right? There's a lot of training, right? Where do you get those, right? It's a huge fleet of engineers and experts, scientists behind the scenes supporting it. Right? Not sure if you realize it, but it's not just on a stage. This, by the way, look at this grandma, and this kid, right? They're all robots, right? Think about it. It's already integrated in life, but behind the scene, this is what is happening, right? A lot of training, right? Industry is pretty cold, right? But now you feel the warmth of humanity, the family, and the color, So you come down to the cost, right? So the illusion is there, athlete, worker, right? We're focusing on worker, right? We're not really try to do everything, right? MaicroBanker, MaicroDoctor, MaicroLawyers, right? Maybe to a certain extent, we're running a business bar, right? We need some guard, securities, and making coffee. Arms will be able to do that, right? You might have a waiter, right? Just for show, right? The real thing to real substantially have to have workers, right? We're talking about new industrialization. It is for that. But behind the scenes, you have social, tactile, facial, emotional. How do you train that? You need a lot of data, a lot of technology. Just the skin, touch of the finger itself, not the eyeballs, right? The synchronization, perceptive expression of the face, right? And the dynamic motion. You look at the motor right there, and the task execution precision, the consumer. Part of the education of the language, obviously, the world model, this is all part of it, right? Not only the motor, the readers in it, right? The visual, the language, the active component, right? But what I mentioned, the ontology, that is where you need to have ontology, right? You cannot be just isolated, right? This is where when I dive into that, you're going to see is in a layer 7 of a 8 or 9 layer human. If you have an opportunity to create humans, that's how you're going to do it, right? And then also it's integrated into the industrialized world. It's a force to be reckoned with. That's what AI is. It's not a simple technology. You need ontology because otherwise your AI models is what? This algorithm. Algorithm doesn't run the world. Okay, it's like you have the best television, you didn't plug it in, no electricity, right? No the tower, from the TV station, you have nothing, right? Same thing here. AI, robotics, algorithm, it doesn't matter. So, what is it? Oh, okay. So, the product, the isolate. Yeah, as I said, they have variety. The little sports student, right, designed for limits. Autonomous marathon runner, right, capable of aerial cartwheels and backflips, ground reaction force, right. Think of the autonomous driving car, like like China going to introduce some EV cars into Canada. I don't know, like Tesla is a good example. It's successful, right? But the infrastructure is really lagging behind. Right? You need charging stations. Like when I was in my friend's Tesla car, right, it's difficult to find a charging station, right? That's in the city, the center of the city, right? What if you go up to the north, right? Northern, eastern some territory, right? So what do? You cannot really use it, can you? Even to the slight remote area, it's hard, right? But in China, even the most remote villages, mountains, they have signals of 5G, and they have infrastructure. They have high-speed internet. Right? Of course, the energy is everywhere. Right? You do a little digging with clean energy. It's kind of huge. Probably a couple of times more. I don't know than the productivity in the US side. That's competition. Right? You have to elements. You put it elements and energy. Right? It's fundamental. The infrastructure and information part. And India is a formidable country, right? The most vibrant, young population, educated, right? They're very intelligent, right? And deep culture, rich history, right? They're really dynamic, right? And that's why you need to watch, right? The AI summit. I think what unfairly, in a way, got into the time headlines. They faked some, this and that. It's okay. I mean, even in the early years, who didn't fake, right? I mean, where did the Europeans got the technology from? They invented everything. Where did they got the world? Right? They just working hard to get it. Yeah, sure. I'm not going to debate it on history lessons, but you have to think fairly. Even China in the early days, the chips, right? Whatever the for the computers. You remember there was a huge kind of the claim, the innovation, right? They have the chips, it's a pride of nation, whatever. Oh, they actually got it from Texas equipment, right? They scratched it and put a Chinese sticker, right? Yeah, they all do that, right? You cannot villainize the whole country thing because of a couple of bad guys, right? They do that. Whoa, they might all have good intentions, they're impatient, right? They're young, right? That's not the basis. You cannot limit yourself in kind of mindset, right? So, they're bad. Yeah, of course. You're not that good either, right? If you don't take it on, but you have to look at the whole nation, like India, a lot of talent. You give it a decade or so, it'll catch up pretty aggressively. What is important are people, right? The talents. Right? But again, I would say that you need to work on the infrastructure part, right? When I say infrastructure, the rule of law, right? How the industry need standard operational procedure. That's what Ontology is built on. As a nation, you need to have that. Right? A little robot cannot function alone, right? No team can function alone. We all know that. Interdisciplinary, across the field. I gave it 6 layers. Somebody gave it 5, like transform. I believe my one is more close to the reality based on eating model, right? But on top of which, that is AI and robotics, physical AI, right? What I focus on is obviously, to make some revenue right now. As a way is enterprise agentic AI. I'm going to talk business ontology there. That's the context. I'm very optimistic in the area of AI and robotics, right? And I believe that we are in the right time, probably the best time in the last 500 years, right? That really encourage all of you to be part of it, right? At least use it and embrace it. Okay, don't just spend all your day villainize it, right? Complaining, being pathetic. There's no point of doing that. Either way, it's coming. Can you stop it? No. You have to live with it. The worker, that's what I focus on, right? I'm building the partnership that is, in a bar, in a bank, in a hospital, in a school, in a law office, maybe home as well. Very cautious, right? That is where I have to plug in the brain. That's my product, right? And the heart, make sure it is legally binding, comply with the local customs culture, right? A particular domain in it, that's what ontology is for, right? Okay, it's how you run your business, what is the business about, products, procedures, processes, policies, auditing, how do you really balance the stuff, right? Those what ontology is about, right? You cannot fix the old ERP. And if you have data swarm, like early days we build data lakes, right? You cannot use expect ontologies from there. You just use a simple AI to fix this problem, right? You don't need an ontology. It's not a magic. You're not a lipstick. We cannot just paint it as if I put a PPT, I solve their problem. Stay away from those PPT artists, right? You can use AI to do PPT nowadays. Why do you spend all the day to do that? Right? It's kind of nonsense. Just focus on the real thing. Do the business, right? Solve the hard problem. There are plenty of them, right? So we see focus on the facts on the floor. The real problem, right? The people, the process, right? The platform, all those products. So many things, right? Whether how you spend all your time doing PPT, impress people. Who is really impressed, right? It's self-deceptive, right? Okay, the other is a little bomb, right? Look at the children on stage, in a garland, right? 1 foot in home, maybe a wheel, right? 1 foot in classroom. Okay, that's what it means, right? Home, maybe making a coffee for you, talk to you, little, sweeping the floor, right? Folding the clothes, right? Educational, obviously, is quite immense, right? So, take some notes, right? Himalaya, okay, story, coding cat, pretty cute, right? Yeah, this is what we're conquering the uncanny valley. What is that? Physics of biometrics. That's what I really focus on, right? The MaicroDoctor that I produce, line of product, just solve that problem, right? Not solve the entirety of this. You can break into million pieces. You have to focus on real cases. Don't just try to build a foundation for the Milky Way, right? Galaxy. That's still a little too remote. For example, the macro expression of your face, the gesture of your finger, right? The nerve system, the fluid beneath it, the tactile skin feeling, right? The signals, right? It's like you remember the meridian system, the Chinese medicine. That's what is my kind of scientific research is based on, right? That gives you a systematic approach. When you attack one little cell or little nerve, you know what it is, where it belongs to, how it functions in millions others, right? Systematically. I always emphasize that. And the soul, not only electricity or energy or some nerve signals, the soul flowing in it. It is from your heart. That's what ontology is. Without ontology, there's no solving robotics. Without the business ontology, AI and robotics will do more damage than the benefit. Mark my words, okay? You're going to see it's happening. Yeah, you have better speakers, more fluid, right? More succinct than I can describe, but I will keep repeating. When I have a real case, right, you might get it if you pay attention. The fast brain is slow brain, all right? The cloud is not non-negotiable, right? You putting the LLM grade compute on board is too expensive and power hungry. The robot handles immediate physics. The cloud handles the soul. Exactly right. It's systematic. You have to be integrated part of the whole, right? But you need at the edge, right? The localized running, right? You cannot. Even the humans, can you live without interconnecting with the system, the social, the nature, any other system, the legal? No, you cannot. But you have to run your own life, your own home, your own body, right? You cannot rely on something on the cloud. Doesn't matter what you call it, right? It's only you can save yourself, right? You have to work hard. Right? If you're an independent individual, right? That's what independent human being versus solvent robotic being, right? I never put an independent robotic being. It cannot be independent. It has to be mostly on the cloud, right? But maybe 20% on the local. Depends on the environment. Could switch, right? Any case, that's very mathematically can be calculated and industrialized. So the curve, right, beyond the chatbot, the agent kit, from conversation to execution. What is that? The speech, translation agent, the agentic framework, the kit. Linguistics, like language model. Language is a little more powerful than we think, but think about it. The English language is very slow, very archaic, right? It's very precise in a way, but it's too tedious, right? It's not suitable for AI and robotics, in my opinion. AI and robotics, like robots who speak a different language, it's almost guaranteed. This English is too, how should I say, like high level kind of language you need bytecode, right? That's what it is. You're right, and the top is recognized, right? It doesn't matter it's visual and sound, any other radar signals. Essentially, that's agentic AI, right? Especially in the enterprise agentic AI part, right? The new ontology is required. Link them together. It's not some sort of moment, right? We're in a prehistoric era of embedded AI. Okay, that's good. Performance, huge parameters, huge compute, huge data. We have the chip, we have the models, we're starving for data. Go to the real world, there's plenty of data, right? Don't just go to Wikipedia, download a few PDF and say you own the world, you train the most advanced model. That's bullshit, right? Okay, the data bottleneck. It's not a bottleneck, just you don't use it correctly. You need to go to the real world. That's where the data is from, right? Simulation isn't a magic bullet, right? IBM era, is very crafted. You make Mercedes-Benz with your hand. It's fine, right? Rolls-Royce, right? Famous for that. You could make robotics like Boston Dynamics by your hand. Everything is so calculated, so crafted. But how can you use it? How can you afford it, right? Who can use it? Who can afford it, right? Can you industrialization using this kind of crafted products? How do you scale up? If you put it in the real world, what do? Quantity is good, yeah, absolutely, you're very advanced in the individual piece, but systematically put it together. Are you really winning? Because the approach is wrong, right? You are the elite, you have to be superior. Okay. Are you? You're not, right? You're drifting behind. Because when you talk about ontology, that's almost a result. How do you want to know the world? How you know the world? How you learn? That approved mindset is coming first, right? Perception, the learning part, the approach is what determines what ontology is going to get. Right? We don't want to get a philosophy or religion, but whatever you believe in, the result what a human being become, right? You approach the world. Right? If you're more scientist, you don't pray every day just because you want to have a breakthrough in mathematics, right? It doesn't really help you. Maybe, meditation helps you relax your mind. That's it. Not going to really help you to, do innovation, do engineering, right? To build a bullet train or rocket, right, to the moon. It doesn't happen if you pray more, right? It doesn't help you more. In any case, that's part of the thing, right? But yeah, it's good. Not going to get into that. The physics engine failed at complex contact simulating the neck. Cracking requires molecular fluid dynamics. Yeah, of course. They mentioned DeepSeek, right? The latest. They're going to release a new model, I think 4 or something. I'm going to dive into that. Might do a bit of deep dive, to make sure that. Maybe some legal or compliance reasons they always try to put it out. But again, from the scientific part, you could learn a lot from it, right? It's totally open source. You can copy and use it, right? Or create it on, it doesn't matter, which is what I could, right? But the manifold kind of theory, how do it's really the same thing with the supersonic kind of rocket, the same theory, same mathematical base, right? It's nothing really different, right? Just the pixels. It's not easier than you really launching the rocket. Right? Think about it. Mathematically, it's all equal. That's where they meet. Okay, and engineering, however, right? Let's make a difference. Okay, you have to distribute it into millions and billions of different scenarios, test it out, right? That's what the power of mathematics, and that is where it's from. It's not like you imagine things, right? You never really had a scale, at scale, some sort of manufacturing or need. Where do you need the theory? Like you cannot just invent something you don't need. I mean, not utilitarian, maybe something to an extent. You have to have people's brain doesn't work that way, right? Yeah, you could look, there's a lot of things, not just the reality, whatever the physical problem before the innovation. The innovation could far fetch, right? Because so many people have brilliant minds, right? They could foresee in the future, right? Don't take it too far there. But again, many of the scientific innovation today, we still cannot engineer that. Right? We invented the theory, right? That's what I always go back to Yijing, right? Before these computers, that's what computer is really doing, right? They systematically calculate, even the astronomy, right? Every aspect of life. Right? You don't really just quantum physics or quantum computers, right? You cannot just wait for that happens, become the iPhone or smartphone in your hand, then you start. It's not like that, right? Probably the same theory, same principle, same engineering process. Don't wait, just plug in and get it done, right? Use what you have and solve the problem at hand. If it's not in the most smartest way, but in a way that you think, maybe rudimentary, but you solve it, right? When the more appropriate, advanced, sophisticated the skills in process and technology, you can solve it differently. Right? That's what AI is for. We're solving this, old problems, new problems with new way, new force, right? Okay. Not all the old problems are suitable for AI. What AI gives you is power, the human beings, how we approach things, right? That the real force is still us, right? It's not the technology. I don't know if you get it. I'm not so good at English, as you can see. Quite awkward. Simulated night cracking requires molecular fluid dynamics harder than just teaching the robots to cook. Moving from the IBM era of curated data to the Google era of massive, it's big data, right? We've been through, like, struggled a couple of decades. Have we solved the problem? No, we haven't solved it. Many of the business still not digitized, right? Digitized is very different from the ERP era. Recapturing, right, my own life experience, 35, 40 years, right? In 5 stages, right? We're entering the 5th, right? In my opinion, and my way of dividing it, right? And the yardstick, you can divide in many different ways, right? The pre-computerization, using abacus, right? Doing the counting, riding my bicycle, exchange checks, right? I cook my own, fry my own eggs, cook my own those. So I still have to live, I mean, if you look at the standard there, it may be like $10 per month. That's my salary, right? And I still live comfortable. Now, you can buy coffee, right? But again, the second is more computerization using the IBM mainframe, right? That's incredible. It's quite advanced, and the way of the maze really are building up the whole thing, right? And then obviously we got a ERP, SAP, small computers, middlewares, IBM, Oracle, so many spring around, right? We have quite a bit of excitement there, and then we get into the, online, mobile, you name it, and then digitization on cloud, right? That's the 4th stage. Now we get into the AI and robotics, 5th stage, right? Right? So really, that's where the ontology is cutting across. It's not only happening in AI robotics. Every stage, but not every business. If you have a big ontology, you start a business. No, you don't do that. You run your business first, right? Same thing here. You just don't stop there and then try to make up something big. And the bifurcated ecosystem, right? The future structure, the industry. Success requires specialization, right? The brain, the body, okay. The body companies, the Galbot, motion control, hardware landing, okay. And the brain is volcano engine, right? Volcano. Sounds like avocado, right? What is Alexander Wang is doing, like in Mark Zuckerberg's shop? A thing called a super intelligence lab, right? Part of the Meta, right? What are they doing? I think the avocado is one of the projects, right? What is the other one? Like a volcano or something? I forgot it. This is not the same, right? And then they produce AI agent for small business. It's a very aggressive person, right? I don't know how they work together, since they all want to be the king, right? yeah, my advice is to do a bit more meditation, right? To have a bit more soul in heart, would going to help the person and also the company, in my opinion, right? So success requires specialization. Body companies serve the physical world. Brain companies serve the cognitive world. No, you need my product, MaicroHeart, right? It's not only brain and body, right? What is really governing them? This kind of people missing that, quite amazing, right? Key takeaways. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Reality check. The gala, referring to Spring Festival gala, right? Proved hardware stability is the primary metrics, right? Segmentation, 4 distinct robots for sport, home, work, and social. The data wall will not compete. This is false. Okay. Hybrid man. Yeah, but again, the data part is a problem. Not seeing that, but just seeing that you need to really appreciate how they approach the data problem, right? Especially look at the plan for the 15th 5-year plan, right? 75 years, right? The AI and robotics is part of the whole economy, everywhere. Everywhere, I mean everywhere, right? They will throw trillions into it. They could produce multi-trillions, right? Everywhere, I mean, emphasize 5 times, everywhere, okay? Everything, everybody, okay? So that's where data is from, right? What do you think? Data wall? What do you mean? You hit on the wall, you're begging for data? You stay in your safety comfort zone of the laboratory, you're begging for data? Or you stay in your ivory tower, you lead and thinking you're the best, and then you get more data? No, that's not how it goes, right? Of course, you need simulated synthetic data, like Jensen Huang's NVIDIA. They have some digital twin simulation. Like Elon Musk in the factory, they also Optimus, right? Simulation is important. I also doing it. That's what the MaicroStudio is for, right? You're simulating, you test it out thousands, millions times before you actually touch, right? But once you touch, that wheel, that circle flying fighter. But you don't just throw in the world, fail. You don't. There's high cost, high risk as well, right? But you simulate it. Does not give you an excuse to go into the real world. Okay. Think about it, right? It's pretty simple, right? Like, you don't want to, as I already said, you don't want to get 2 PhDs, double PhDs before you get into the work. When you get some training and education is sufficiently equipped, go into the work first, right? Don't worry about everything become double PhD and then try to solve the problem, right? It's never work like that. The person who is on the ground fighting the war every day, day in, day out, knows more than all the war philosophy theory, the art of war. More than that. Art of war is just a book. It doesn't guarantee you win the war, right? Many people don't even read it, okay? They still win the war, right? So many theories, right? You have to test it out. Right? Only through the real world actually doing it, then learn, enhance, optimize. That's the most sure kind of way to advance technology or science, right? Like astronomy, I can't believe people not even observe the Jupiter, for example, for a full circle, can suddenly invent the theory and claim the father of that. It's kind of bullshit, right? You must copy it from somewhere. I can guarantee you. Because you, first of all, don't have the need. Second, you don't have the sufficient data to pave the ground for you to really come up with the theory. Right? Same thing here. You cannot expect you come from miracle or AGI or super AI and just stay in your comfort zone in the laboratory. Right? You keep reaffirming yourself, you're still the king of the hill, you're the best. You're not. If you are today, tomorrow you will not be. Because you try to skip the most challenging, the less graceful, the hard-working part, which is get into the industry, get into the nitty-gritties, get the bottom of the mine, doesn't matter, a lot of fears, rats, and dirty, and that's the real world, No war is beautiful, okay? Don't romanticize it, right? It's pretty brutal. Same thing here. Okay. Number 4 is hybrid minds and affordable robots require the fast brain, add and slow brain. That's good. That's good. It's 1 plus 1, right? It's not that complicated. I kind of hate this kind of word. What is it? Biomimetics. Okay, requires solving the physics of packing 32 motors into a human-sized head. Okay, yeah, that's what it means, right? Well, human brain has how many billions of, neurons, right? So that's what it is. Let's see if we have more to look through. By the way, the little insert, right? Recently, some sort of claw, or open claw, whatever that is, I forgot it. I'm not very interested in that, frankly speaking. I think it damages more. Well, it demonstrates the power, but it is very damaging, right? The architecture of AI memory, how AI agents remember, right? Still is, it's a challenge, right? Organize, mark down. Those are very simple, middle school students could do it, right? Semantic modeling, procedural, strategic extraction. Yeah, but let's watch for a little bit, right? It's going to be a disaster, in my opinion, right? But let's see. There's some merits in it. I demonstrated the power, destructive power, right? Obviously, it's something, right? We talk about, OpenAI and Anthropic, XAI, Google, Gemini, they're all closed source, right? What China said, like DeepSeek, Quinn, DLM, Minimax, even Unitree, they have their own models, right? They are more open source in a way, right? So my anticipation is each and every large industry or domain, or even individual businesses like big banks and the government should really create its own GPT, like large language model, to more certain extract a little bit, right? To scale it up a little bit. You need, in my opinion, that's what I mean by MaicroHeart. You need your own heart and soul, right? Which is the multimodal model. It's for your domain, for your business. Even within the business, you have multiples, right? And then the business ontology part. Put together, I call it private operating system, right? That's what I reverse it to be standard operational procedure, right? That's intentionally playing the word game, right? But you need to really intuitively, very familiar with how to build, for example, a large language model. There are going to be various models, right? You don't have to rebuild each and everything as if you know nothing. There's plenty, right? Become very easy, like assemble a language, right? Or writing COBOL or writing whatever language, Python, right? This becomes so easy later on. The virtual machine part is the local running, right? The whole thing together interactively is going to become your localized private operating system. Okay, That's a necessity to survive, thrive, succeeded in the AI, age of AI and robotics. And each robotics will be equipped with those as well, right? It's an intricate, systematic approach that I will explain again and again, because there are products that have to plug into the world and get revenue, right? It's not like doing charity, no. It's explain it, because without understanding that you're not to get it right? We all know this, right? You collect raw text, many years ago you have the research can text as data, right? It's also where I studied all kinds of algorithms, machine learning, deep learning, convolutional networks, CUN, DUN, you name it, the neural networks, right? Young LeQuan and a few others, Fifi Lee, they're very good professors, right? So many, and Jeffrey Hunting as well. Mentioned 3, right? There are many, right? Then the data, right? Architecture, data preparation, cleansing, processing, mapping, feature extraction, engineering, get the core attention mechanism. Then LLM, right? The transformer is one of the architecture. There'll be more, right? The DeepSeek already make a lot of innovation there. How to pre-training for the foundation, right? The LLM, GPT-3 pioneered that. It doesn't mean they're going to continue to stay at the kingdom up hill, right? Then there's a lot of data got into that, right? It becomes a basic skill, right? Fine-tuning for tasks, right? You label the data, like Alexander Wang is famous for that, data labeling, right? Label data classification, been through if you familiar with machine learning, right? This is the same thing, same steps, right? Then you have the embedding, right? You have to. Last time we talked about the positional encoding. That's important, right? It takes a lot of mathematics. We explain in details how and why, right? The vector embedding, right? The tokens, right? The high dimension continuous vector, right? And the LoRa kind of stuff, right? Reduce that, improve that. Think about it, it has to run in chips. What chips? The Corda is the kind of barrier, right? But DeepSeek already cracked it, right? There are many local domestic chips able to handle it equally well. But economics, right? The scale, again, everything, right? I mentioned so many times, they need a lot of chips, not just even NVIDIA gave all the chips to them is not even enough, right? Not even a fraction, right? Therefore, they have to build maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 100. Not everything is as good as NVIDIA, but put together will be many times more capable than NVIDIA can produce, right? It's for a new civilization, frankly speaking. That's where the competition is. So all those technologies is important, but you have to know that each and every piece belongs to the whole. It's like a brick, right? I lay the brick, I know it's building Rome, right? And I also know I'm not going to build Rome in 1 day or 2 days, right, in a week, but I build it brick by brick. Okay? That's what it is. That's kind of a bit digression, right? Let's continue. Let's continue to talk the Spring Festival color, what inspired us to think through, right? They have also calligraphy. When I was small, I'm very good at it, right? And when Spring Festival comes, we have the red two sides the wall and top that as well, right? I write every year, right? I'm very good at it. So now, the robots can write it. It's amazing, right? I cannot even imagine. Right? This is where I don't think, unless you have the need, unless you have the question, you don't provide answers, do you? Innovation is driven by that, needs and curiosity. Okay? So unpacking the compound engineering machine, driving China's dominance in humanoid robotic. Not humanoid. Already in high plateaus, in forests, in deep sea, there are many already. Not everyone is humanoid. In my opinion, the arms, this is why I propose the WAR stands for workforce, arms, and risks. That's what I propose, right? That's what the acronym is from. On the left side is live, right? The law and industrialization, okay, the finance, and transport, right? Like cars. Right? They all need science, technology, engineering in the private operating systems, enterprise engineering AI, physical AI, embedded AI, solving robotics. It's repeated many times. But heart of it, right? You need the MaicroHeart and MaicroBrain that I built, right? Think about it. Even the arm needs that. To the less extent, it's easier, right? And look at the signal in the noise, and it trains in such large-scale cluster, right? Scale, right? Quantity, in a way, is a quality, right? Think about it the other way. You cannot always focus on a small scale, just one individual, brilliant, right? Let's say a country like 1.4 billion people, like you have 10 geniuses. Can you expect the 10 geniuses complete the reindustrialization of the nation? You probably better to have 100 million or something like graduates and engineers who just reduce to one genius or two geniuses is enough, right? Because that quantity, that scale, is what we need. Okay, individual excellence is good, but it's not enough. Collectively, you have to be working together, right? Skill, okay? You need a systematic approach. I don't know why it's so hard to get. But unless your mind is fixated, oh, I'm superior, I'm the lead, I have to win, it's only me, I want all the money, all the things. And then, fine, that's your choice, right? But then you're not really doing any good to the nation or to the world, right? Or to the civilization. It's only for you. But eventually, what good do you do to yourself if only you succeed, only the elite succeed, the rest falling behind? What world is that? Think about it, right? The obsolescence of the copycat narrative, right? Oh, okay, they're still kind of thinking, oh, they copy. Copy from where? You don't even have it. Oh, DeepSeek steal my data. Really? For what? It's open source, right? Oh, Huawei steal my data. Okay, you can have all the narrative you want to sanction, right? It's not going to really do you much good. Yeah, give you a short-term advantage. You block them out, and I can still be king of the world, right? King of my own kitchen, right? Fine. You should work on open arm and competition. Obviously, you need to protect your own interest. That's one of the tactics. I give you that, but it's not the best way to do it, right? Not by willing others, and to make sure that to make yourself look good, feel good, right? Or like you're kind of getting sick, and really sick, right? Your liver is kind of really drying up, right? But you enforce others taking the medicine, right? So you're not going to save you, really. You can blame them all, but it still cannot save you, right? Maybe make you feel better, right? If that's what you enjoy, that's fine, right? The talents, the other part, industrialization, the talents, right? That's what I mentioned, right? Workforce. Okay. When I say workforce, it doesn't mean like only the robots, right? It's the AI, robotics, power, educated, augmented workforce, humans, right? You might have 1.4, 1.5 billion, but none of them educated, none of them knows how to spell AI, then that's trouble, right? How do you use them? Are they actual advantage or baggage? You have to fit them. Think about it. Education is not just about teaching them a poem, right? Really have to have a purpose. Yeah, of course, utilitarian is bad, but you can be very spiritual. But again, you have to live, right? Unless you don't want to eat. Right? Quantity has a quality of its own, okay? This allows for brutal force, innovation, and rapid iteration cycles at smaller talents. Now, when I graduated from university, I was highly regarded because it's only a few thousand, in the whole country. It's already over 1.2 billion people there, right? But now, every year they produce millions graduates, right? That's why it's no longer, so glory that you graduate from university, right? But again, you need those numbers, right? 4.7 million STEM graduates, right? Versus 568,000. It's quite a difference, right? It's, like Tsinghua University, yeah, I remember that, but I nearly got it in. I probably should have got in, but I had a beer and slept. Yeah, very arrogant person, right? I thought it's easy, right? But I never knew in my young age, alcohol actually make you sleep, right? I mean, fun. I missed it. But again, it doesn't mean I'm not good. I proved that I'm still pretty good, actually. Industrial feedback loop, US iteration cycle. Okay, design in office, email, talk forever, have 20 meetings with 30 people to argue, demonstrate who is smart, and bicker each other, slam the doors, shouting, yelling, fun, draw a little picture, make it pink, make it flashy, produce 10 PPTs for the same quotation and impress everybody. Eventually win the hypothetical war and celebrate it, get a award, promotion. Yeah, lots of PPT experts got promotion, right, for a good reason, because that's the environment, right? Then, how long it takes? iPhone glass cutting process development time in 3 months in China versus 18 months US estimated, or you might be able to double it later on when you actually produce anything. And it didn't mention that cost, right? I don't know how many times more. I've been through a lot, right? There's using 26 engineers per 1,000 manufacturing employee in China. We have to look at the quality. And probably 11 in US, still have 5 is from China. Students, especially AI part, robotics, right? If you ask them where you're from, where you're educated, fine. That's the reality. Why? Because the cultural difference, prove physics, prove reality, prove pragmatic, right? Prove that real hard facts. That's a mindset. That's in genes, right? Culturally, in blood, You cannot breathe without it. On the other hand, you're very good at, everybody's a big orator, right? They speak for a day and, they're so sophisticated, talk forever, do nothing, and win, become getting all the awards, dominate every headline, That's the part I think you have to really, this doesn't make you sustain, right? As a culture, right? I mentioned the decline of Europe, right? The UK, I'm living through that, right? You really have to find out deep down what is going on there. And if you were to, survive, right? If you don't want that, you still want to feel good until, to death, and still that's the best and most important thing to you, then feel free. Engineering as a civilization, yes, is what I'm saying, right? U.S. Congress member, yeah, I don't want to say that. Sovereignty over the supply chain. That's my product. Sovereign robotics. Right? Maybe Mike coined, maybe somebody else, I don't know. That's fun. The reduced gears, reduction gears, and rare earths, and high tone motors, right? China has moved from assembling components to owning the physics of the. I really encourage the global should come together, right? It's not good. One nation monopolize everything. That's not healthy either, right? There's a lot of talents in Africa, South America, right? Some smaller countries. You have to find a way to bring them together, move forward, right? Human is one species, right? Okay, nobody possesses all the good qualities. Genetically, it's not possible. You need a large enough genetic pool. Right? What do you think? The economics of scale, Western legacy, Boston Dynamics, Atlas, 2 million, 2 million, right? The consumer electronic shift, the Chinese modern unitary Fourier, 14K, 30K, okay. Capacity data, Western aggregate capacity, 1,000 units per year. China is 100 times more, right? Result, robotics move from boutique luxury to commodity hardware. Okay, but this is telling. I like this one, right? And yeah, energy is new compute, right? China's power output is eventually Elon Musk 3 times. Okay, but U.S. has vast land, right? Very advanced in technology. You should find a way to do away from the elite kind of thinking to benefit the majority, right? Find a way to do that. Your mind comes first. The question comes first, right? I think Andrew Yang proposed some sort of universal high income. Elon Musk, so everybody will be billionaire, right? He didn't say that. It's a high income something, right? Abundance, pardon my English, I don't know how to pronounce it. Meaning a lot of money. Everybody have become very rich, right? Then I don't know what's the meaning of being rich anymore, right? You really need money? Everybody really thrusting, really I need to work, because as a human I kind of feel so I don't need to work, right? It's kind of disaster. I need to work, I want to work. I want to serve people, right? If you have the opportunity, that's the most glory, really, if you have the capacity. Serving people, work to make your life and other people's life better. What's more important than that? What is more, satisfying than that? Why only locked in the mindset it has to be you, always win, only benefit you, the elite, the smaller, handful of people? Why? Unless you really get out of those dead, loop, you're not going to do good, right? Because you, the person's perception, the heart, creates the whole world. Okay? Embedded AI requires massive energy. China is utilizing green energy from the west to power the compute cluster in the east, building the physical grid to support the digital brain, right? But the US can solve it differently. It doesn't have to copy China, right? But certainly you don't blame China, don't just villainize it. Oh, they copied us. Probably didn't, right? Economic embedded AI gap. Did AI versus embedded? Okay, I call it physical AI. They don't have so many terms thrown on. Okay, people want to. The father of embedded AI. The father of the acronym game. Fine. Okay? You put an IP on it. Nobody can use it. Only me. All right. It's okay. Have fun with it. Abundant text data. The brain is smart, but borderless, right? The solution. Factories, a new classroom, because China has the factories. They have the scenes to train the robots. We're in the IBM transition era, waiting for the Google moment of my Jiang, I don't know who it is, Unitary founder, okay. The sanction paradox, de-westernized stack, cloud brain 5G, Huawei Ascent 910B, heavy compute, connection, high-speed 5G local latency, robot edge, reflex actions, low-power chips. Sanctions foster vertical integration by offloading heavy compute to the cloud via 5G. Robots don't need restricted high-end chips inside every unit. Inference costs dropped to 0.1 RMB per image. Oh, 智谱 AI, ZAI, right? That's the Tsinghua University. That's the team. Okay, beyond the factory floor. Yeah, that's what I like. Get into real life education, elderly care, and commercial service, delivery, mining, cleaning. Get into the banks, get into the hospital, get into the fields, right? The desert, plant the trees, clean the environment, get into the deep sea. A lot of use cases. We need AI robots, right? In robotics. There's plenty of data, right? High industry units, low cost consumer units. Okay. And this is the Western dilemma, right? Isolate, tariff, bans. Okay. Collaborate, Tesla's. Elon Musk is pretty smart, ambitious, but sometimes he bullshit a lot, right? Risk, slowing domestics, adoption, or China iterates independently. Reliance on competitor supply chains to paradox. U.S. tech giants like Tesla recognize that while the West leads in model design, the industrial application is centered in the global south, right? Well, only for now. If you're falling behind, you're falling behind systematically. The compound engineering machine, the experimental growth, exponential growth, 4.7 million talent pool. On the right, the industry feedback loops, faster flying whale, and exponential growth. On the left, upper national purpose, field. The competition isn't about who has the best single chip, it's about who has the best system. That's what I didn't even read it. Intuitively, that's how I think, right? I didn't see this before I even come to this. China's advantage is not linear, it's compounding. Okay. Well, compounding interest is the investment capital market wealth management thing, what I'm familiar with, but you put it here is equally precise, right? Yeah, I think we covered the bit. Let's see if anything lighter hearted. It's the close up. Oh my God, it's 5 a.m. I need to get a bit of sleep. So, been a long talk, right? Hopefully, guys can still hang on there, right? I'm not going to recording your voice, right? Just my private, protect your privacy things, right? So we look at the 2026, the embedded physical singularity. I hate both of these words, but it's okay. I have to accept it, right? The singularity, the embodied AI, physical AI is keep moving continuous, right? And it's not going to pinnacle then come down. No, but advancing, ascending, right? But let me get a beer. I'm thirsty, and then we continue to finish this. And then we'll call it a day or week. So this about the embedded AI. Okay. So Okay. They're analyzing some breakthrough. All right. So what are the breakthroughs? The Elon Musk, okay. Manifesto, pivot to robotics. Tesla cars, FSD, impressive, right? Factory retooling, impressive again. Optimus mass production. Tesla is not a car company. It is a robotic and AI company. Cool. The investment, 20 billion in capex, R&D. Wow. I wish I have 10 billion. I would have done equally good or better, right? Sacrifice. Well, the question is why don't I have it, right? And Elon Musk has it. That's the real catch, right? The sacrifice, potential sunsetting the legacy auto lines and Model S and X, right? To repurpose Fremont facility, right? The goal is 80% target state of the Tesla's future enterprise value derived from Optimus. That's far-fetched in my judgment, right? That's one of the fallacy or weak point of Elon Musk. Keep pumping a lot of gas, you know, that he's very, because he's a genius, right? It's going to happen like 10 years, a decade later, but he says tomorrow is going to happen. I'm going to have, you know, all the Optimus walking on the street, doing everything. It's good for the market, for the stock price, right? But it's, I'm not too sure, but, you know, I wouldn't say that kind of thing. Okay. Optimus Academy closing the seam-to-rail gap. Simulate millions of simulated units in physics accurate reality generator. Then the reality, meet the reality, then convergence. This is cool, right? But it's simple and effective. The hardware reality. Optimus runs the exact same AI interface, inference chips, and FSD training architecture as Tesla vehicles, right? Cool. That's very smart. And then the operating system, the Google Gemini 3.1, I use it, right? The core intelligence layer, reasoning performance, Gemini 3.0, 77%. Wow. Synthesizing fragmented sensory data into unified view, that's important. Monumental amount of data, right? Multi-step reasoning for complex agentic workflows and solving logic patterns never encountered in training. Of course, the real world is way more complex. You need a bit of penetration training, if you will. The dexterity challengers, the ex-human tin. What is that? Dynamic vision, language action, fine motor reflex, dynamic stair climbing. Wow, impressive. The software mode, the perceptive human PHP, input, onboard depth, camera only, library atomic skills, nearest neighbor search, okay, and reinforcement learning policy, output real-time dynamic execute, no pre-trained path, no external motion capture. The robot climbs obstacle 96% of the own weight using pure onboard perception. Wow. That's what I like. Economic warfare, the price of cabbage strategy. 白菜价. Inter what? I cannot read it. The skill, right? The cabbage strategy, asking to have democratic skill, okay, which high and okay, the Elon Musk 2027 It's 20,000 USD versus China current reality 99. Okay, it's about 14 USD, 14,000, right? Okay, comparable, only 6,000, 1/3 hidden demand. The complete supply chain localized allows software to be produced at commodity price, removing the Chinese components is estimated to triple the bill of material. Oh, yeah, that's for sure, right? That's what it's a whole industrialization competition. That's what the competition. It's a war, okay? The black lantern factory. Yeah, of course. You don't need lights, right? They're robots, right? What do you need lights for? Okay. Operation 24/7, zero lighting, okay? Inspection time reduced from 50 minutes to 30 seconds, right? Tech stack, wow. Factory brain, right? Solving the demographic cliff, right? Human workers, 40,000 a year. Robot workers, $2 an hour. Human labor, there's all workforce, you have to know that. That's when I mentioned both, not just a single one. 8 hours a day, weekends off. No, 24/7, right? Insurance, sick leave, emotion, no. Robots are the only viable deflationary force against aging population, labor shortage. But I don't want to become a force to encourage people to continue to have no children, right? You solve the labor shortage, but again, you have to solve the actual problem, right? As a species. Well, Elon Musk had how many children, I don't know. Obviously, he realized that the investment thesis, value distribution, integration in the brains and Google, NVIDIA, AI and compute, risk and pick and shelves, right? The precision components, the high barrier, high value, the golden mine, right? This is the golden mine. Shovels, right? Precision, joints, sensors, actuators, right? Don't have the funding to that. Too premature for me, but I understand I'm staying in the second layer, and at least for AI part, robotics side. Component X-ray, the muscles, the planetary ruler screws. Okay, market dynamics, the distribution, and what is it? Component X-ray, the joints. Okay, wow, that's really. That's what I call it gears. I produce some of those, but very small size. Oh, crack the egg, the nerves, provide tactile sense, determines the what I call the meridian system rather than nerve. Yeah, maybe, didn't want to argue the terminology. Okay, so essentially the reality, right? Logistic to sell steel soldiers, right? U.S. doctrine, the high-tech monopoly, advanced, expensive. China, the DDI, use the DDI camera right now, right? Swarm scale, low cost, disposable. If it can hold a screwdriver, it can hold it, whatever it is, right? Yeah. The verdict, convergence, right? The winner, mass market adoption. The race is not just about who builds the smartest robot, who can build millions of them at the price of a used car, right? Watch the component supply. They are the leading indicators of production run, right? You need the whole industry systematically, the base to support you, and not just a single one, right? Like finger is part of the body, right? The nerve is so sensitive, we use it every day. But without the body, as a human, it wouldn't function. Right? In robotics, you may only have one arm, okay, to making coffee, to crack the eggs. But again, the whole body, robotics, like human, if you cut the human body, only have a hand, it's dead. But robotics not. There's a difference, right? But still they need the whole industry to support it, okay? In other words, whatever I build, the MaicroHeart, the MaicroBrain, whatever, the micromeridian lines, it's still in the hand, making coffee. That's the difference. Right? There's a bit of statistics. I don't want to leave you with the impression that I'm advocate for China. I'm not. I don't live there, right? And I know how the weakness, the fallacies there as well, right? But I guess we need to pay some attention. But again, if I'm in China, I would look at it differently, right? It's always like, making a case. You look at the side to support your story, right? But you have to look at the downside as well, right? Like the US have not only advanced technology, but the culture, in a way, at least for AI and for robotics, way healthier, let's say that, right? But part of the workforce, they pay more attention to the labor laws, right? The human values, ethics, right? You need to learn that, like the China side, right? And also the patent. There are so many. How many are really genuine, right? That's my question, right? Yeah, we have to be sensible, not just one side, advocating for whoever. We're the same species, right? You should advocating for both, right? Of course, there are competitions, there are wars, there are different tactics. It's fun. Enjoy the game, right? But again, if you think holistically, you should really be very realistic, right? Critical thinking you cannot expect from robotics. Robotics, garbage in, garbage out. The same thing with AI, right? You feed into a lot of made-up data, right? Of course, it gives garbage. Hallucination is the least problem, right? Right? In my opinion, right? You need to feed into real data, okay? You have to put in a real challenge, right? Like a person. You can perform well if you just function in your backyard in the garden, right? Or you sing in your bathroom, right? Doesn't mean you're good, really. So, okay, we have to close it. It's kind of 5:30 already in the morning. We'll continue next time, okay? I'll leave you this, and we'll continue. We have a lot to cover, right? Thank you.
对酒当歌，人生几何？譬如朝露去日苦。